Hello and welcome to Scene for Vampire by Gaslight. Today Sir Trant is meeting with Miss Lovelace, and they will actually be meeting in the same coffee shop that he has met her several times, but this time it is much later in the evening, and the coffee shop is technically closed by this point. Which is good, because otherwise people might ask questions about him bringing an owl there.
Ooh. Yes, we went there.
The sign is flipped to closed, but there is still a light on inside. And you can see Miss Lovelace sitting at one of the tables, writing in her notebook.
All right. Well, so Trent brings in this covered cage type thing, ready for the unveiling. Miss Lovelace, I present to you, and then pulls off the sheet or whatever, an owl of some genus and genus and variety species.
Thank you. And she'll take the cage. Please do have a seat.
And we'll sit down and look around. It's a lot quieter.
Yes, well, it is closed at this time of night.
I take it, for since we're able to stay afterwards, you know the proprietor.
Yes. He's a friend of mine.
So, do you need anything else for this divination to work? Leave that story.
She'll stand and she'll retrieve from under the bar what looks like a large stone. It is in fact a large stone. It kind of dips a bit towards the middle. And into that dip, she pours some of the glass of water that has been sitting next to her notebook on the table. Then she pulls a small knife from a pocket somewhere about her person that is quite hard to locate. With very little to do, sticks her hand into the cage. The owl, being a wild owl, will presumably attempt to attack the hand, which she doesn't mind particularly because she could use it drinking some of her blood anyway. And while it's distracted, with one hand, she'll use the knife to make a tiny cut on one of the owl's feet. Enough to make it screech and squawk and let go of her hand and attempt to attack the other one, but at this point she gets both of her hands out of the cage. it doesn't take long for her to heal the finger that's been quite badly bitten. But the tiny drop of blood that is clinging to the blade goes into the water. And she uses the knife to stir the blood into the water. She then sets it to one side. You brought something of Cassandra's?
And that he'll what was in the room? That presumably I would have brought that.
I would have thought you'd have brought some of her drawings.
That's true. I'll bring the drawings, but also just in case the divination, he'll also bring one of the some of the crowns that got left behind, because, well, not going to let one of the drawings get destroyed for the divination. So yeah, he'll present to her one of the more innocuous pictures, probably the one where
the drunken cat.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. The drunken cat.
She's just going to raise a little bit of an eyebrow, but she takes the picture and she rests her hand on it rests one hand on it, while her other hand rests on the bowl that the stone has formed with its dip in the middle. It looks like it's some kind of precious stone, semi-precious stone, but you can't quite identify it. It's a pretty stone anyway. But she's going to look into this water and she's going to concentrate. And she's going to get all the successes. Yay. There's an awful lot of barrels. Barrels. And it's some kind of cellar. She's drawing. She's sitting using a large chest as a table. She's sitting on the floor. The barrels all seem to be stamped with something. It's hard to make out the details because the vision is focused on her, not on them, but they all seem to match. So it might be a brewery of some kind, or perhaps a storage place where the goods come in from abroad. It's hard to tell, but it is underground. It is comfortable looking, and there is rather a lot of barrels. There also seems to be some metal contraption to one corner. And I wish I could see that more clearly. I might be able to tell you what it is, but there's definitely something metallic and complicated to one side. There As well as the box that she's using as a table, there is another large box, almost coffin-like, but a crude coffin, not one of the more expensive kinds. It has a blanket draped over it. She seems comfortable enough, and she is definitely still among us. She's turning to look at me. That's somewhat odd. Slightly disconcerting. Did you say she was a human?
She was.
Was being a key term.
Oh dear.
Seeing as she has smiled and waved. And her smile has shown fangs.
I see. Well, he'll turn to, he'll look at Lovelace. Apparently, she can't see him, but so does your scrying leave any indication of it's happening, or does she just know you're there?
I've never seen anyone be aware of this before.
I told you she was special.
Quite.
So,
Miss Lovelace looks confused by something for a moment.
what?
Do you know who her mother is?
Her actual mother?
I don't know. She's held up a piece of paper that says "Ask Mother."
Oh. I guess she's referring to me as a motherly parental figure. She did say something. Tell mother he's not in charge of me. Or not something along those lines. But,
She said this to you?
well, no, she left a message for me using the word mother type thing.
Yeah, but you said she said, "Tell Mother."
No. She said, out of character. I can't remember who said that message right now. Oh, right, the governess. Anyway, she has a second sight.
I can tell.
Child is quite gifted. Anyway, he might be able to see us, or she might be able to just see the solution. Anyway. So, now you know my little secret.
Perhaps you should ask the prince. If anyone has had permission to sire recently, he will know. You can at least find out if she has been embraced with permission or without, and that could give you some idea as to where she might be.
True.
And who she might be with.
Mm-hmm. Well, this definitely points to Joseph not being, possibly, at the very least, not having killed Cassandra, because Cassandra is well and alive. Well, at least well.
He may be a diablerist, but I don't think he embraces lightly, no.
Also, if he's been locked up for how long, and she still seems to be hidden and quiet, would be difficult for the vampire. Especially given her state of mind.
She's moving.
Uh-oh. Where's she going? Can you follow? Are you following her?
She's standing by the door and opening and closing it. The door's at the top of some steps, which adds to the impression given by the floor that it's a cellar. But yes, she's standing next to the door and opening and closing it.
I think she's giving the impressions that she's free to go about where she likes.
Or at least to a certain extent, yes.
It definitely seems like she has some ability to communicate with us through this link, so I'm going to ask some questions and see if she picks up on it. I'm going to guess she's happy, and would you get the general indication that she's being well looked after?
She's nodding and she's holding up a picture.
Okay, what's the...
Let me see. It's a cat and a pirate holding a baby. And someone with a pointed hat. And something in their hand. I can't quite see it. Might be A spoon? Yes, a cat and a pirate, and a man with a pointed hat, or a figure with a pointed hat, and what looks like it might be a spoon, or might be something else. Something stick-like. And the pirate is holding a baby.
Does the pirate have a patch?
Yes. It has a piratey hat and a pirate eye patch. And it is holding the baby.
And what's the cat doing?
It's sitting on one side of the pirate, and the man with the pointed hat is standing on the other side of the pirate.
Well, I have inkling what that, well, somewhat what that might mean, but I don't like the implications of trying to figure it out. Anyway.
I'm not sure how much longer I'll be able to hold this vision, so if you have anything else of importance...
Oh, right. Are you going to keep trying to send me drawings?
Shrugs. You seem undecided on that so far.
Well, I quite enjoy them, but do you have anything else to tell me?
She's holding up the piece of paper that says "Ask Mother" again.
Ask Mother. Oh.
It's beginning to get more difficult to see quite what she is up to now.
Anyway, goodbye, and I'll keep looking, and I guess hope you're well. Anyway.
Quite an unexpected scrying.
Yes. This might give you the idea of a two-way scrying.
As I said, I've never heard of that before, but interesting nonetheless.
Anyway, I'm going to ask, you are familiar with the doctor's code of confidentiality, correct?
Yes.
Would you say there is a similar code for one divinator?
No.
Oh dear.
Let me put it this way. If anything I see seems to be of use to my clan, then I will share that information with them.
Well, interesting little bit here. that I'll give you for free. You told me that, how many Tremere are there in the city?
3 currently.
Now, let's look at this. Now, what is some of the nicknames of your clan?
I'm aware of several, some more palatable than others.
But one image that comes to mind is the pointed hats.
True.
One of her drawings seemed to indicate a wizard type indication. Anyway, I have a thought that maybe if she was the baby, maybe there are a trio of individuals she's associated with.
I see.
Anyway.
And you wanted me not to tell my clanmate?
Well, if he, he might get a bit upset if someone knew of their clandestine thing, and I don't want them to hurt her. So that's mostly the specifics of that part. Is we're dealing with people who are willing to break into another's haven and steal, well, a young girl from her cell, and they also turned her, whether or not with permission. So,
Assuming, of course, that all 3 were actually involved in that. It could merely be that all 3 are involved in wherever she is now.
true, but let's just say I feel a bit cautious. But
I understand. I'll consider what you said.
Do you know much about the just out of character, this place is Edinburgh, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know much about the Edinburgh area?
Some.
How many breweries does Edinburgh have?
A few dozen.
Well, it definitely narrows it down, but
And of course, the majority of breweries will have cellars.
Mm-hmm.
But compared with the city as a whole, it is a lot narrower. And You're aware of her state of being.
Right. So, anyway, I guess I'll have to find an appointment with the prince.
I
So,
suppose so. At least to find out if she is legitimate or illegitimate.
right. Although, yeah, I'm trying to think of how to ask this question without asking outright. Hey, we saw displaying a child who was turned into a vampire. Did you give anyone permission?
Oh, he is the person most likely to know.
True. Anyway, um, hmm. Ask mom. Ask mom.
So, do you want to head over to visit the prince, or do you want to continue talking to Miss Lovelace, or do you want to do something else?
Um, Probably going to head over to the prince, but one thing for Miss Lovelace first. Hey, babe. Um, I assume it, I assume if you think of anything else that can help us or help me, you'll let me know. And also, uh, I will be happy to help you gather any other uh, animals you might need.
Thank you. I will certainly see if I can think of anything else, but there's only so much that can be seen in a small pool of water.
And he'll smile, although you do have to admit, today really did surprise you.
It did indeed.
Anyway,
It was well worth the owl, she says with a smile.
anyway, I assume that the page I gave her looks fine. Everything.
It's slightly crumpled if
Okay.
she's gripped it, but it's okay.
Uh, Going to fold it and smooth it out. Probably try and smooth it out a few more times than is necessary.
To be
And
fair,
then,
it was probably crumpled when it was given to you. So you've smoothed it out, now it's got slightly crumpled again, and now you're smoothing it out again.
yes. It, so as I feel about this vampire or this kindred would do is
Yep,
he tries to have as much order as he can.
yep,
Somehow he's come to grips with that. It won't be perfect, but there are some things he demands complete order.
yep.
Anyway,
So do you want to go and try and talk to the prince?
sure.
And because I feel like it, you're actually going to have some luck with that.
Huzzah!
Yay! And
Miss Lovelace, I see our transition is quite over.
There we go. And you'll be shown through to where the prince is testing out a new sword. He seems quite happy, in quite a positive and cheerful mood. And he's the sword itself is moving in something of a silver blur. But he pauses and turns to look at you.
And he'll bow. Good evening, my prince.
Good evening, Sir Trant. And he'll put the sword away. Well, put it into its sheath and set it down. What is it that brings you here?
Well, I was wondering how if you may have given anyone to the permission to embrace recently.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, that Bruges fellow. He made a particularly impressive perfume, and there's not a great deal of kindred in the city at the moment. So I gave him the permission. Provisionally. If he doesn't seem capable of raising whoever it is he's chosen properly, then of course we'll have to reconsider. But he seemed quite eager.
This. Do you happen to know what line of work he's in?
Something to do with distillation, I believe. I think he used some of that skill in the making of this. He takes a small glass bottle down from a shelf where it seems to have been displayed relatively prominently, and he brings it over towards you, carefully but proudly, like showing off a slightly delicate flower or something. And he takes the stopper out of it to allow you to smell. It's a relatively impressive perfume, but how impressed Sir Trant would be compared with the Toreador, I'm not sure.
Not as, but he'll at least be able to appreciate. Ooh, it's a fragrance. Anyway, I assume does it have like some sort of flowery base or what?
Yep, there's kind of citrus to it, and floral elements and vanilla. It's a complicated but quite good fragrance.
Okay, so basically it's artistic thing because it has many smells without being well, sticky, shall we say. Okay.
It's blended well.
Given the artistic ability and the fact that he What would you
Currently,
say the person?
as far as you know, there are. Well, you've only met 2 Bruges so far, I think, but there are 3 in the city. One of them, being the sheriff, would probably not be referred to as that young Bruges fellow. So it does narrow it down somewhat.
Yes. So I'd like to ask permission. I'm not sure whether this falls under your purview or the sheriff's, but I would like to speak to Joseph one more time before the trial.
Ask the seneschal. He's been looking after him. The sheriff is excellent when it comes to active matters, but holding indefinitely is rather more of the seneschal's department.
So, would you say that, given the would you say that if there is a possibility that he could be held indefinitely?
He is being held indefinitely at the moment.
So,
until the matter is resolved, whenever that will be, which is an indefinite point in time.
if I might ask, what it helps me relate to other kindred if I understand what era they used to live in. I think I heard you were from France back in before the revolution.
Yes.
Anyway, I wanted to know what your this is
I
the
would
thing.
advise against asking kindred their age.
I wouldn't
take
dare
it
ask
in an offensive manner. Others can view it as someone attempting to find information upon them.
I wouldn't dare ask how old you are. It's just I'm trying to relate to the past aristocracy as it is now. I assume you were what I do not know the French terms for their well, what their
Chevalier.
nobles were.
I am Chevalier Francois de Barbarac. A chevalier is very similar to an English knight.
So we do hold. So we are somewhat similar in that in mortal life we were somewhat of the same rank of nobility.
I believe my nobility was rather more martial than yours was likely to have been, but yes.
This is true. What I wanted to know is, So you did point out, or as you pointed out, you were a rather martial kindred. That's what I was kind of asking. I was wondering if you had any knowledge of the mortal law and how, and I was wondering your point of view with the kindred way of staying, how it affected the kindred law, because to be completely honest, this is a new thing for me. Uh, so
Human
if,
laws have very little bearing upon me. As for kindred laws, essentially, they boil down to obeying the traditions and obeying one's prince.
well, this does, but essentially you have answered my question. I was looking for a basis to argue, and you've given me it. Thank you. Hopefully this trial will commence whenever you are free.
I very much hope so. It has dragged on for far too long.
Anyway, I understand you're busy, and since we're not at a social gathering, and also given the lateness of the evening, I'll let you retire to what you were doing before. Thank you for seeing me.
He'll give you a small nod. He'll pick back up the blade and he'll go back to, well, let's just say, as I said before, it is a silver blur. And whilst his torso and face is very much staying in one place, his arms are nigh invisible.
I know it isn't a clan discipline for me, but
You can definitely recognize celerity, yes.
Well, I'm going to bow out gracefully because I think he'll be hungry after he's done.
Yeah, probably. But he's old enough that he's got a much bigger blood pool than you do.
This is true. Anyway, let me think here. Anything else I need to do? Will I have an ST? No. I think most of it's going to be me trying to narrow down who the Bruja is and then visiting said Bruja.
I think you have a good idea. But yes, there the scene will end.